Chirohustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and Spotify to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, and Invisired. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 382 of the Chirohustle podcast. I am your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Lauren Pepper. And if you want to understand that there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chirohustle podcast. And today we have Dr. Lauren Pepper, and she is coming in from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I, your host, James Chester, and coming in from Grand Junction, Colorado. And before we get into episode 382, it's a real big number there. We're pushing up the numbers here and creating this tapestry of chiropractic story, which I am so proud of. As we were talking about documenting the story, a depository of information for chiropractic is so important because there's a lot of people that listen to this show, people that are your patients, friends, family, people that might not know anything about chiropractic. And I said, just if somebody was searching for this and they found it and they listened to like the first 2 minutes of an episode, they would get something valuable, because I tell people we support free speech in chiropractic. We protect the sacred trust. If people don't know what that is, go and Google it. Go search what the sacred trust is. We also, earlier today, I was really really and I was talking about BJ Palmer and the penalty of leadership. And if you guys want to really learn something, go and look up BJ Palmer's penalty of leadership. But that even gets us into these bigger ideas, which is a BJ Palmer phraseology, is once you get the big idea, all else follows. And then, as always, we tell people we support subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence and universal intelligence, that when man, the physical, or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, then it connects man or woman to spiritual, which is really cool stuff. And there is a physical component, and there's a spiritual component to chiropractic, and science, philosophy, and art. It all goes together. So if anybody just listened to that, Dr. Pepper,
wow,
they would be like, what is this profession all about? I want to know more.
yes.
And then we bring on a guest like you, and we get a chance to share your story, which I think is the most valuable part of it. And then, this is episode 382. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Wow, that was such an awesome introduction to what you're doing for your podcast, and thank you so much for having me on, Jim. This is great.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Dr. Lauren and Dr. Brad hosted me over at their house recently, and had me over for lunch and got me to the airport. And thank you so much for hosting me out in Charlotte.
Oh, it was great. I'm so glad we got a chance to have you over. And what a beautiful day it was. We got to sit out in the back and enjoy and have break some gluten-free bread together.
Yeah, it was an amazing meal. And I'm thankful that you sent your bio over to me, because I had a chance to read it. And I think you came into this profession much like a lot of young women come into the profession. They come into it with some type of a necessity that no one else is helping with.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you realize that there's something out there for the greater humankind, which is chiropractic, and it changes your life.
So much. Absolutely. I mean, do you want me to go into that story?
Yeah. If you would just share your chiropractic origin story of how you got into the profession and
Sure.
where you are today.
So in a nutshell, I was pushed into chiropractic. I literally believe that I was pushed into chiropractic care. And it wasn't a straight line, but when I was 16, I fell 20 feet and ended up in the hospital for 100 days in what's called traction for a broken femur bone, which is the thigh bone. And that that experience didn't get me into chiropractic, but it put me into a situation where I had to really allow my body time to heal. I had an orthopedic surgeon who did not have very good bedside manner, but he knew what he was doing. But every time he would walk out of my room in the hospital after he finished redressing my leg and whatever, I would cry because he was just like, he was not like at all warm and fuzzy. And I felt so like, just imagine like being a teenager stuck in the hospital in a bed for 100 days with your leg propped up like something on Tom and Jerry, with your, and I couldn't get out of bed. But I made the best of it. And then, what ended up happening was the story of how I got to become a chiropractic miracle and really have my own experience happened a little bit later. I was, back to being a teenager, and now I was like 17, and I was having the leg was healed. I was back to, all the normal, walking and being able to run and do all that kind of stuff. But two things started to happen that I never had before. And the first one was I had back pain, and it was nothing, nobody really had an answer for it. And I wasn't even asking. It was just sort of, I was accepting it. I thought it was just kind of normal. And it wasn't like taking away my livelihood. It would just hurt. So the other thing that was going on was I was having hormonal imbalances, like with my menstrual cycle, that I hadn't had before. And they were like debilitating every month. And it was, not pleasant. So I ended up going to visit my grandparents down in Florida just for a vacation. And my grandmother and my grandfather saw the way that I was hobbling. I was kind of walking off, and they said, we're going to take you to go see our chiropractor. And so I didn't even know what a chiropractor was, but I go to see this guy, Dr. Blum, and Boca Raton, Florida. And he set me up, and he got me, like the back pain went away after the first visit, because I was out of alignment. Now, what nobody was explaining to me was I fell 20 feet and I landed and I whacked my body up pretty good, right? It wasn't just the broken leg, but the mainstream medical model was only focusing on the fracture. Mm-hmm. But this doctor, when he did my intake with me, what he said to me, the hormone stuff that you're having more than likely is related to what's going on with your spine. And he showed me the connection, like the spinal nerve chart. And it showed the relationships with the muscles and the glands and the organs and the relationship between the brain. And I was blown away. Never had I heard anything about, it just was a whole different model. It opened me up to a possibility of like, that is awesome, right? So long story short, I started seeing a chiropractor when I got back home. That was just a visit. And after about 3 months of care, everything was fine. Like the cycles got better. And what I should tell you is prior to that, I was going to see a few different medical doctors because my parents were trying to figure out what was going on with my menstrual cycle. And the answer that they had for me was to put me on birth control pills. That was their answer. Oh, you've got dysmenorrhea, go on birth control pill, which is a very common way that they, deal with that. But I thought, that doesn't make sense. Like, I didn't have the problem before. Why am I having it now? Well, they did an ultrasound to see if there was a cyst on my ovaries or anything like that. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a real common thing. Nope, nothing like that. So that's what they did. They said, go on the birth control pill. And I didn't want the prescription. I never filled it. And to a blessing, I don't know why, Jim, because, to be 17 and be able to like actually be on birth control kind of gives you permission to have, whatever, it just gives you permission to do things, and your parents are on board with it. So I said no to that. And I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why I said no, but I did. And going to this chiropractor, he was the one that opened up the doors, and he helped me to understand what I needed to know at that time. I felt like I was really guided to be, pushed in this direction. So, and it really worked out well because I went on to have, 2 healthy, regular, normal pregnancies in my 30s. Like I wasn't even like waiting, I didn't want to have children young. So, and I ended up having 2 home births also. So at 36 and 38 years old. Now I have to wonder if I had never seen that chiropractor for that other issue, and then come to find out it helps with also the biochemical stuff, the hormones, I never would have been directed into this path and where I am now. And so grateful. And I get to see so many other people who have their own version of their own stories about how they come to be under chiropractic care and have many, many miracles, many, many, just awesome changes that can happen. So, yeah,
Well, you said a lot of. I like to go back and turn a few pages back and do recall for people. And one of the things that I think that most people that listen to our show know this, but there's people out there that might not know this. But chiropractic is something that helps people with thoughts, toxins, and traumas. And it feels like from your story that when you had that big fall, that you had trauma, and not just like physical trauma, but like psychological trauma, and then rehab trauma. And like trauma has like a long path with people, and they think like, when you go see like the MD, they're like, oh, we're just going to treat that symptom,
Right.
that break there. That's what we need to treat. And we need to get that thing to heal up. But they don't realize that the trauma from the fall has a soft tissue effect, and it has a psychological effect, and it has a way of like impacting our bodies in ways that we don't even know. So it makes sense to me that when people have something like, a big incident like that, that they don't recover all the way, and then they're timid on certain things, or they don't advance in certain directions, or they need some type of help, but they don't know what it is the answer to. And all of a sudden they become a customer to something that they didn't want to become a customer of. And really cool on your end that you didn't succumb to that suggestion.
I know.
Because that's the easy thing, is just like, take this thing and get over it and get out of here and go
Yeah.
move on, and be you, and don't worry about me caring about you. Just go become a customer and do this thing. I don't know if it's the right thing, but
Right.
just go do it. So it's really it's empowering for me to hear your story about how you actually took that whole incident as a young girl, had the opportunity to have somebody with some influence on you say, hey, how about we try this chiropractor?
Yeah.
And then, honestly, a somatic chart, like when somebody can show you like the neural pathways from like organ to
Yes.
spine, you're like, what? Yeah.
It is.
You're like, no one tells us that.
And I remember the feeling of, this feels like truth. Like when it made so much sense to me. And because I was having this, physical discomfort every month, and then to be able to do this thing called chiropractic care on the regular basis. I think I went to go to a local chiropractor. I think he had me on like, kind of like in the many people like in the olden time, like back in the day, would do like, you do like 3 times a week for a couple weeks, whatever, and then you go to 2, and then so I kind of followed a treatment plan, and I was, excited to keep learning when I would go, and of course I liked the feeling of getting the adjustments, and I just have to say, it's such a blessing, because it really opened up a whole nother world for me. I didn't go right in from that to, oh, I'm going to be a chiropractor, because I was still only 17, but it laid a seed, a deep seed. And it really gave me a foundation that whenever I felt like I needed health care, like I would go
Yeah.
see the chiropractor first. I would go to the chiropractor because I liked it. Right.
It
And
just
then
makes
eventually,
sense.
yeah, yeah. And then years later, I remember like being, away from home, and, having to kind of seek out like another chiropractor. I remember being in this one doctor's office, and I was filling out the intake form, and it didn't have a place for just coming in for like healthcare, like wellness care. Like it was all symptom based. And so I wrote in the like comments after, I'm just here for healthcare. I don't even think I used the word wellness, because I'm not sure if that was even like a word at the time. Um, but I just remember thinking that was weird that he didn't have like that on the form, because the other doctor made it seem like it was so sensible to have that as a something that you do to maintain good health, prevent health problems, and to but that doctor, his intake was different. So I kind of learned that there's different ways of doing it, right? It's not just one way, and that's
Mhm.
okay, right?
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, and Invisired. Let's hustle. And you telling me that, it just makes sense that people find their way to understand chiropractic different because everybody does a different technique.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like, I want that little clicky thing, or if you don't do it Palmer style, I don't want to go to that doctor, or I do the type that's like low force. There's so many different techniques in chiropractic too that it offers people a different interpretation, that when they have an experience, they learn that the neural pathways go to the organ system, that has a profound impact on the immune system, that has a profound impact on all functionality,
Yes.
organ, tissue, cell. Everything that we do has an impact from the spinal column. And when you learn that and you show that, every chiropractor has a different technique that they use.
Yeah.
And I think that each person that is a healer in this profession has something unique in them. And I'm curious, and I'd like for you to share with our audience, what is your preferred way? What makes you unique, and how do you take care of your patients today?
Sure. So, one thing that I found, like when I was in chiropractic school, we learned diversified, and then you can have like sort of your subspecialties, where you learn like other techniques, like you do technique classes and so forth. And I wanted to, just sort of experiment a little. Like I allowed myself to sort of resonate with what worked best for me. When I was first learning some of those subcategories, so I actually, and I also had some chiropractic, experience as a patient. So I already had a little background on different techniques. And one of the ones that I really liked a lot was called sacro-occipital technique, which is a low force technique. It's very much, this audience probably knows a lot about what it is I'm talking about. For those people that don't, it's the relationship between the alignment of the pelvis and the sacrum, and so like the foundation of the spine, and then also its relationship with the upper part of the spine all the way up to the cranial bones. So people that have like TMJ issues or have a lot of headaches or have head trauma, it does very well for them because it's a lower force technique. So I love diversified. I love getting in there and just sort of like, moving bones and, aligning and just getting that, nice, like quick response, because people walk out feeling so great. But not everybody responds to that. So I think it's really important to have a multitude of like skill sets in your tool chest, right? So that depending on what that particular person needs for that particular time of their care, if they've got a lot of instability in their lower spine, I'm not going to go in there and do diversified in their lower spine, because we have to stabilize, and we have to, we have to make sure that they have that foundational support in their lower part of their spine. And like in myself, I got whacked around. So, I mean, I probably had a little bit of a minor, I'm sure I had some kind of head trauma, because I remember how I landed on my side and I probably got whacked around, but I wasn't concussed. But nevertheless, it's good to have those low force moves, because when somebody has a history of concussion, that affects so many other things, including their gastrointestinal system, right? The gut brain connection is real. So other than that, I also do like a lot of, I do like, I did a lot of training with a guy who was a network chiropractor when I was finishing up my training as, in chiropractic preceptorship. That gave me sort of a foundation to work from, although sometimes I'll use it just to do the diagnostic. I'll do the network diagnostic. I love it. Makes sense to me. And then I do a muscle testing. I do my form of applied kinesiology. And I implement that into the really sort of the neuromuscular system, and also the biochemistry. I will take different nutraceutical vials, and I muscle test people and look for how we can help them to really make sure that their ligaments or if their ligaments are weak, we do things to help with that, or if they have GI issues, that we can also address that along with the chiropractic care. So I think after doing this for over 25 years now, my technique has sort of become Dr. Pepper. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think a lot of chiropractors who've been doing this for a while will tell you they sort of they have their own blend of things that they have sort of put together based on other like sort of pure techniques. I'm not a purist in that way. Like I'll do what needs to get done, but I understand how to assess the body, and I understand how to make sense of what's going on, and then sort of put the pieces together like a, just like probably like a mechanic would do when they're diagnosing a car engine or whatever. It's like, and then they're going to get to, okay, how are we going to fix this? Right. And so you can use these tools as diagnostic, and then you can also use them as treatment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that that's the thing that really inspires me about what you do, because I've got a chance to meet you and see what you do. And I've, just been learning more and more about how you do your chiropractic, your service to people. And there's a lot that goes into it. And you have to get to know what's going on with people on different levels. And that's why, when I talk to people about chiropractic, it's not just a pain game. Chiropractic isn't just an expensive Advil, and it's not just something that you get and somebody like pops you and like your life's like, a new life.
Right.
Like it's something that you integrate in with somebody, whether they're fresh out of school or somebody that's 25 years into practice or longer, but you get in and you work with somebody and they get to know you.
Yeah.
And it's not just, this cold experience. Like, chiropractic is a very tactile profession where people like put hands on people and they get to know people, and it's such a connection with the people you take care of, and you want to see people have great outcomes. So you want people's activities of daily living. That's one of the insurance things that they want to see. Like, how are people's activities of daily livings improving? And when you get that type of plateau with people and you get to know them, of course you want to see somebody improve with life, and you want to see them, like, a lot of people don't know chiropractic can help women have pregnancy, and it helps women when they're pregnant, and it helps children when they're born, and there's all these things that it does. And
it's the best profession out there in healthcare. I'm telling you, I mean, it is. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, is because it encompasses so much of, diet, lifestyle, and just good old like high functioning people in the world. Like, we need more high functioning people, bright shining lights in the world, right?
It clears out people's nervous systems.
Yeah. And also, let's not forget the fact that being hands on, oh my God, I mean, think about the past 2+ years. Like, people have been they haven't been connecting. They haven't been able to connect. So we didn't close our door. We didn't change our office hours during the whole, from March, 2020 onward. Like, we were open for business. And I will tell you that there was whole other level of what I was seeing, where people actually, they didn't have to say it, but you could feel it. They felt like they just were so happy to have and I hope this doesn't come out creepy, but to have a person that knows how to like take care of them, lay their hands on them, and actually have physical connection. Right.
I think that was a huge component that was missing over this, like, be afraid of everything and everything has germs and you're gonna, everything's gonna make you sick. And I think that people were really lacking that human element, and they're really lacking that, like, that love of what chiropractic is, because chiropractic is give, love, serve. And when you come into a chiropractic clinic or an office and you get a chance to build that bond with somebody, they're going to adjust you. They're going to talk to you about things that matter. They're going to talk to you about your family. They're going to talk to you about the things that you're eating, the things you're not eating. They're going to ask you about how much water you're drinking, like all these things. I think that the world was not, we were not megaphone blowing that to like the masses, like, hey, go see a chiropractor, get your nutrition on track, get your spinal care on, get your exercise on, drink enough water, get enough sunlight, like the bare necessities of, like, baseline health. We weren't even discussing that stuff.
Right. Yeah. So, which is another thing that I found so strange when, again, back to when I was in the hospital for 100 days, like, there was no, I will tell you that I had really good care, and this was in 1980. So I have like I was telling this to Brad, I said, I have a timestamp of how it was to be in the hospital for that length of time in like 1980. I felt very cared for, and it wasn't like, it didn't put my parents in bankruptcy. Like, my mom told me our bill was $30 a day, plus whatever maybe the deductible was maybe like $500, and it was $30 they charge because I had a TV. I had TV service in my room.
Huh.
So you think about that. That's not a whole lot. That didn't, So to healthcare back then and healthcare now. I mean, I know we're probably not wanting. That's another conversation. But it gives me a timestamp in my brain of how different it is now. I mean, so many people have so many. Like even when I had to go get my foot X-rayed, like we didn't really talk about the fact that I have a broken foot right now, but I had to get my X-ray on my foot, and at the radiology center, they closed at 5 o'clock, and we got there at 5:01, and they wouldn't see me. And we just looked at each other and we're like, God, that would never happen in our office. We would absolutely not turn that person away, but rules are rules. It's just like, that's the way it's done. Doesn't matter that you had to go up on crutches and that you're in pain. So anyway, I'm not here to like recap that, but it was enlightening of like just the difference in when I will tell you that most people, when they go to a chiropractic office for care, they leave feeling better and they leave feeling cared for. Right.
Yeah. And what you're saying is over the time, the medical industry was less of an industry and it was more of a service providing system. Now it's more of an industry that inflates the price of everything that it does. And it doesn't, and the people that deliver the care, they still want to see people get better.
Absolutely.
And they're just working out of a really bad toolkit that costs a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
That costs a whole lot of money.
So, our profession, the chiropractic profession, we've kind of been setting ourselves up for this time. I don't think there's any better time to be a chiropractor than now. And the future is so big for our profession. Like, I think we knew our value. We know what we offer, but now I'm seeing it more and more. People that are coming in for the first time. This is the first time they've ever been to a chiropractic office. More and more of that is happening. They're hearing their family members, their friends, their coworkers are telling them like, oh, you've got that XYZ, fill in the gap. Go see my chiropractor. Your chiropractor can help with that. Yeah. And it's just I love it. Again, being that when I first got into this profession, we were still kind of considered like we were on the outs, we were on the sidelines. We weren't like
outliers.
Yeah.
It was an outlier.
That's a good word. Yeah. We were, and I didn't feel ever like, just like, I wasn't like afraid to tell people or ashamed to tell people that I was a chiropractor. I was always really proud of it and passionate about it. And my husband and we went through chiropractic school together. We were actually boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. And then we got married halfway through, like crazy kids. And so we've been on this journey together for a while now, and we've seen the evolutions that are happening. And like, we didn't even have social media when we first started our practice. That wasn't a thing. There was, we had computer, but it was, I don't even know what we had, but it wasn't what we do now.
Well, that's what I wanted to tell people is, I think the perception and the accessibility of chiropractic is much more understood now because people have so much access to social media and YouTube and TikTok, and chiropractors are out there and they're like, we got a brand. We got to put a message out there. We got to connect with our audience. We have to like go out there and promote our business on social media so people know who the heck we are and what we do and where we're located. And they're following the formula. They're creating podcasts. They're building audiences. And I think that that's something that we, as what we're doing today, you have to find the angle for sending the information to people to where people know more about what they're interested in. Like you said, like you didn't have social media. How do people find out about chiropractic? Well, they would have to go to the library and like actually get a book and go talk to a librarian about how to like check out a book.
Yeah. Well, we spent a great deal of time like being out in the community when we first, opened our practice. we put our shingles out. We knew that we had to go out there and get the people. They weren't just going to show up, right?
Of
Especially
course.
because in the beginning we we opted out of all insurance for probably like the first 3 or 4 years. We were just a purely cash practice.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, this was in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. And if you know Tyson's Corner, Virginia, it's like, it's cement city, corporate America. Everybody had insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And we grew our practice on a cash. And then we decided that's silly. We just needed to figure out how to do that part of it and offer it up and then be able to accept insurance and, and also, just know how to really like not be so black and white about it, because there is a benefit to being able to use your insurance when you have it, right? So
yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said about so much of what we talked about today. A lot of people they're going to listen to this episode and they're going to really see some love, they're going to see some knowledge, and they're going to share this. They're going to consider if there's anything, like if they don't know what chiropractic is, by the end of this, they're going to have a really good understanding what chiropractic is. If they're a practitioner out there and they've been practicing 1 year to 40 years, they're going to fall in love with this story, because I really believe that stories make us the most valuable person in the room. And, if people just learn how to curate a story and tell it the right way, they can connect with more people. So I'm really thankful that you came on today for episode 382 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Dr. Lauren, I know we didn't get to all the questions that we had here, but I would like to have you on for a future episode. So
I love that.
let's
let's talk about.
Yeah. I feel like we just scratched the surface today of what's possible with the conversation of chiropractic.
Is it okay if I just kind of like end it on like?
Yeah, please do. And then I want to get your web credentials in case anybody wants to reach out to you too.
Sure. Okay. Well, what I was going to say is that, again, just kind of putting into simplistic terms, I think of like in terms of like triangles, right? That they're the sides of the triangle, they're interdependent, they're interrelated, right? And they're interconnected. And so that's the same thing when you think of the three parts of a triangle as being, say, physical stress, mental, emotional stress, and then like biochemical stress. That covers so much. Like all of that is within that. You're going to get your answers in healthcare. What's inflaming you? That's a stressor. What are you? Are you toxic? Like you're having a hard time clearing out toxins, and so there is free radical activity, oxidative stress. That kind of pathway going on. Is it hormonal? Right? Is it trauma? Like we talked about earlier. Whether it's falling or brain concussions and anything in between, whiplashes, that kind of stuff. So there's a place for really so many parts, like in chiropractic, right? And I believe that our time has really come. So I appreciate this conversation, Jim. For those people that want to reach out and connect with our office, we're Innovation Health in Charlotte, North Carolina. The website is the letter I, health, NC, like North Carolina, .com. ihealthnc.com. And on our website is, a lot of different, you can go in there and you can explore what we do. You can see other people talking about their journeys and their experience. And you can go in and fill out new patient forms if you happen to be in the area. And for anybody that wants to do, say, what we didn't really talk on, which is like the functional medicine model, which is where I specialize in blood chemistry evaluation, right? So we can look at that and do that from afar, from anywhere in the country, and get people set up on like that next right step. How do you get that inflammation down? What do you do when you have like a trauma and you want to recover, right? So that's it for now.
Well, it's stress that's a silent killer, but it's also inflammation that is the precursor to stress. So I think that when they say that stress is the silent killer, I think inflammation is one of the things that we really had to key in on. So maybe the next time we chat, we can talk all about functional medicine and how you look at the inside of somebody's chemistry and help them find true health from inside out. And
that's great.
Dr. Lauren, thank you for being episode 382 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I want you to have an awesome night out there with Dr. Brad in Charlotte, North Carolina. And let's heal that darn foot up, okay?
Absolutely. It's healing. And Jim, get back to North Carolina. Come on over and have another meal with us, okay?
I will. I won't be a stranger.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye for now.
You.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.